Hi, this is Laura Holyoke. I have part one of two parts of a political lens overview for you that I would like to share. So we're talking about politics and the political lens, and most people, and this is very true, consider that politics is very related to power. So a definition of power is the capacity a person has to influence the behavior of another person. Very straightforward. However, in our society and in our organizations, often the general response to power is power. In organizations, however, we depend on one another. We depend on people that have power. So it really is the key to more power. And what creates what creates dependency? Well, it's the importance of the resource to the organization. Maybe that person, maybe that group. It could be the scarcity of the resource, that it's not easily found in the organization. And then the non-substitutability of the resource. So what is it that we depend on, that we have to have in organizations that lead to others' dependency on this power? Second way to look at this is in political lens and power is to look at interests, power, and conflict. So organizational politics can be analyzed in a systematic way by focusing on the relations between these three: our interests, where we have conflict, and power. So we're going to spend some time talking about that today. First of all, let's consider that each one of us has three areas of interest. We have our extramural interest, that is life outside of the organization. This is what we like to do on the weekends, maybe what we do for a vacation, could be our family life, preferences that we have, and beliefs that we carry. Secondly, we have career interests. These are aspirations and visions as to what future may hold for us, where we want to go in the future, what we want to be. And then finally, within our jobs, we have tasks or job interests. That is, these are connected with getting our work done so we can get good evaluations, we will continue to have resources. It's what we need to do our jobs. Therefore, I will act in ways to protect my best interests. Personal interests don't always take in our team or working group's interest in mind. You can understand politics in an organization if you look at what people have as in their best interest. So, even looking at the office, look around. What is it that people are noting, and what might you guess would be their best interest at the time? So people tend to go for what they believe is their best interest. May or may not be the truth on the outside, but we can often see as people carry this out. The political lens is very much in contrast with the structural lens where we started. So I like this quote by Gareth Morgan. In contrast with the view that organizations are integrated, rational enterprises pursuing a common goal. Right? So there is no people there. The political metaphor views organizations as loose networks of people with divergent interests who gather together for the sake of expediency, that is, to make a living in terms of developing their career or pursuing a desired goal. So very, very different than what we first studied in the structural lens. When we add conflict then, conflict happens when our interests collide, and our interests collide quite a bit. The conflict, however, may be personal, it may be interpersonal, it may be between rival groups or coalitions within organizations. It may even be built into organizational structures to have one group set up against another, maybe the roles that people are assigned to in organizations, attitudes that people have, stereotypes, or it may even arise over scarcity of resources. Conflict, it's important to note, may be overt, that is spoken out loud where everybody can see it and hear it, or it may be covert, That is a look, something that's done behind other people's backs. So to know that conflict is not always out in the open. We have choices in terms of how to respond to conflict. We can do what we can to prevent it from happening, kind of a proactive approach. We can avoid it. Lots of people are really good at avoiding conflict, pretending it's not there, walk the other way. We could go for a resolution that once it's present, to see if we can find a middle ground, or I win, you lose situation, or you win and I lose. We can manage conflict, which is kind of in between the avoidance and resolution, but more towards resolution. Responses that we have to power, other than just fighting it with power. So I want to talk about a few of these here. One is a reasonable argument. We think about French and Raven's bases of power. Reasonable argument uses expert power, what I know about a subject or a content area, in order to respond to the power that you're trying to exert over me. Maybe friendliness. So the response may be, if I feel like you are using some sort of power against me, that I might resort to friendliness. That is the referent power, that I know you like me, therefore I'm going to bring out the friendly. Or another response is being assertive. This is a legitimate or coercive power, hypothetically, that happens in response to power. I'm also getting out my notes here as I go through. So other responses to power are to build coalitions. And when we build coalitions, these may be smaller groups of people. We may be members of sub-coalitions. There may be several different kinds of coalitions that we belong to in organizations. And coalitions can use any base of power. Then there is co-optation. So a response to power is to co-opt others. That is by flattering them. Could be conforming to what it is that's highly valued in a culture. Co-opting may be looking like being humble. It could be co-opting through awards that people receive, or giving out awards, grants, and recognition. It may be negotiating. So this could be very covert, quid pro quo. You do this for me, I'll do this for you. Degradation ceremonies are ceremonies that we really break down a person in public to strip them of anything that's socially that may have been assigned to them before. And then another way of co-opting is to focus on the rightness of one's position over somebody else that may be quote-unquote wrong. Other responses to power is to avoid, to stall, take a little bit more time. I'm sure nobody's ever seen this next one, is to send it to committee. And then we can make a decision on it, to stretch the timeline of the process, and hopefully the power will then diminish over time, to blame others, or even to blame circumstances. Real quickly, a review or just a reminder about French and Raven's types of power or bases of power that can be used. Referent power is the power that you have when somebody likes you. Legitimate power is the power of one's position held over somebody else. So I have legitimate power over my students because I assign them grades, which is also reward power to assign grades. So legitimate because I'm an instructor, reward because I can assign grades. Expert power is more knowledge than others have, and then coercive power is to use really any of the other power bases against somebody in order to harm them, or make them do what you want them to do. One last thing to think of is power tactics that are used in organizations. So power tactics are ways in which individuals translate their power bases into specific actions. So power bases here refers to French and Raven's power bases. How do we do this? Through reason, friendliness, coalitions, bargaining, assertiveness, higher authority, sanctions. So you may have used some of these. You may see them being used. You may see them being used in the office. So just a few things that that I wanted to give you a heads up about. And then finally, oftentimes this is very covert. We tend to look at people or point out and say, you know what, I think they have a hidden agenda. So this concludes part 1 of my political lens overview. And the next one I'm hoping will be just about as short, but I knew that I'd probably go 20 minutes. Please feel free to watch that. Thank you so much for your time.